Thanks for hitting the rewind button with us tonight. In the co-captain's chair tonight, a special co-host, Neil Lee Griffin. He is a film composer, sound artist, and all-around interesting fellow. Neil, thanks for joining me tonight on the rewind button.
Oh, you're much too kind. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited about chatting with you tonight. We're diving into a subject that is near and dear to both of our hearts, the X-Files.
Indeed.
So I've been a fan ever since 1993, and I saw bits and pieces of the first season on TV. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of on those late nights, you know, when your parents have gone to bed and you're just kind of up, milling around and flipping through the channels, and you find a show that scares the hell out of you.
No kidding. That certainly was the case for the X-Files. When you and I first met, it was we were working on a film, and you were doing the scoring and sound design, and there was some the editor was having problems with sync, so you and I went through and rebuilt that whole sound design basically. And so we spent a lot of time working together and getting to know each other. And one of the things we bonded over was the X-Files. What are some of the things that just make it a great show for you?
For me, that it was always a mystery, and it was kind of in that darker tone. Like any type of mysteries, I've always been kind of drawn to, and like the show is always kind of foggy and low lit, and then there's aliens, which is always, you know, terrifyingly awesome at times.
They did a really good job making like you said, the aliens very mysterious, and you can't quite see them. Or is that them in the shadows? What's going on? And then using the lighting and all the way they lit all the monsters and did all of the creature effects. I've always been a big fan of.
Oh yeah.
We could talk about many things, like our favorite monsters, our favorite conspiracy episodes, the scariest episodes, the weirdest episodes, but tonight we're just going to talk about some of our favorite episodes. So I know it was tough to really compile a list of those episodes, because there are so many that I'm like, oh, that one's a favorite. That one's a favorite. And this one, how about you? Did you have trouble picking your top three?
Yeah, I mean, out of 9+ seasons now, you know, like there's so much to choose from, you know, whether it's a mythology episode or a monster of the week episode, like there's so many good ones. It was really hard to pick only 3.
No kidding. And I would say there's 11 seasons with the short revival and the little 10-episode finale follow-up we got. But who's counting?
Yeah, I said 9+. That's got to count for something. Come on.
Very true.
Meet Kolchak, the Night Stalker. He reports on the incredible, the unbelievable, the unthinkable. Darren McGavin is the Night Stalker.
Premieres next Friday night.
Well, the show itself was actually inspired by another show that I'm a fan of, Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Have you ever watched any of that?
I actually haven't.
So it's streaming on Peacock right now, and it's very X-Files-y in a 1970s reporter on the scene kind of way. And it also stars the star of that show was Darren McGavin, who would show up in the X-Files playing his name was Arthur Dales, the guy who actually created the X-Files that Mulder inherited.
Right. I'll check that out.
Definitely worth taking a look at. It's a little slower, but I mean there's a lot of slow burn X-Files episodes also. But I know you wanted to talk about the pilot episode, and just for fun tonight, I've pulled up all of the TV spots for the episodes we're going to talk about. So before we dive into the pilot, let's take a look at the TV spot.
2 FBI agents assigned to the same cases for different reasons.
No explainable cause of death.
Do you have a theory?
You believe in the existence of extraterrestrials.
One a skeptic, one a believer, both trying to answer questions that were never meant to be uncovered.
I think those kids have been abducted.
By who?
By what? Seal this up. Nobody sees or touches this.
Distinguishing features indicate subject is not human. You've got to trust me.
I gotta know what they're protecting.
Hold it right there.
Between reality and fantasy.
You've got to protect protect me!
terror and reason,
Mulder, what are they?
trust and betrayal,
The X-rays and pictures!
lie the chilling secrets
Mulder, is that you? Mulder?
of the X-Files.
Beautiful.
No kidding. They don't make them like that anymore with the dark voiceover and the
Yeah.
kind of slow build.
Can I just say I really miss narration in trailers.
Me too. It connected so many dots that I think are just open plot points today, and you're like, I think I know what's going on, but
Right. And
it's so much better.
I think a lot of it was to do with because they were on TV. So you just kind of have the TV on in the background while you're doing housework or any projects around the house and stuff, that it's like you may not be watching to know what's going on, but the voiceover is sort of reeling you in.
It is definitely a lost art, and the TV spot really sets it up really well. The skeptic and the believer getting roped in together, and then you can see even from the TV spot that they're going to really kind of have to depend on one another to figure out what the heck is going on. So very exciting time in 1993. The pilot actually premiered on September 10th, 1993. And I know I've seen it several times over the years. I don't think I was watching it when it actually premiered, but I would get to see the pilot later that season. Why was this on your list of top episodes?
It's the beginning of a giant part of our zeitgeist in pop culture. And the pilots aren't always the strongest. I mean, it's kind of setting up, and sometimes it's slow going to get for the series to get their feet under them. But so just straight out of the gate, somebody like me, it's like, all right, I need to know what's going to happen. And then it kind of takes you into the FBI, and we're introduced to Scully, who was brought in to originally kind of debunk Mulder and spy on him in a sense. And she finally meets him, and his first line is, "Nobody down here but the FBI's most unwanted," which is one of my favorite lines.
I love Mulder's kind of wit and dark humor in his lines throughout the series. He had some of the best throwaway, you had to be there in that moment in time in the 90s lines during their shows.
Indeed. And an interesting thing about this show is that Chris Carter was adamant that Mulder and Scully not be romantically involved. It was not about their relationship in that romantic way or trying to woo each other. It was about doing their job and trusting each other.
And I believe there was actually like a boyfriend written into the pilot that was filmed and then just got lost on the editing room floor because they were like, we don't need him. We're going to see enough tension between these characters to know that's not where we're heading. At least then.
She gets a boyfriend later on in the series for like 1 or 2 episodes, and then they scrapped it for good reason, because it didn't work. You know, she's about doing the job, and that wasn't. So
Right. I'm trying to remember the guy. I do remember that now that you bring it up. That's a good trivia question. Scully's one-time boyfriend's name on the show.
And starting off the sort of alien abduction straight out of the gate, you know, it's not alluding to it and then talking about it 2 or 3 episodes later. It's like, okay, we're in this town in Oregon and abductions are happening. And some of the effects were really great, especially for that time, with like the leaves swirling around and the bright light.
Yep.
It's just like, this is terrifying, but I need to know what happens. Are they going to show the aliens? What are they going to show? Like, it was amazing.
You look back now, the effects are almost silly, but so well executed. You're like, I'm totally buying it.
Mm-hmm. It's a show that takes itself very seriously, even when it doesn't. You know, like
In a good way.
like some of the more comedic episodes throughout the series, like even those, it's like, yeah, it's funny, but they're doing it very seriously. You know, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah, to just play it straight and then know it's completely silly.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite type of humor, just personally, is playing it straight for comedy.
Yeah.
Which Mulder did throughout the series constantly.
He was great in that role to just kind of bring some levity in the middle of all this craziness and dark conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, love the dry wit.
I gotta know what they're protecting.
And then we also got introduced in this episode to the big bad, or one of the big bads of the show, the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah,
And that shot at the end of the show where he's just kind of, where's he going? What's going on?
yeah, the filing cabinets that he's filing away the implant from Billy Miles.
That we would come to see a few times in that show, that filing cabinet room, and it was always a good episode when that showed up.
Yeah, and when the cigarette smoking man showed up too, because it's like something's happening behind the scenes that maybe we'll find out someday.
And he also showed up in the episode that I want to bring up first, one of my favorite episodes, and one that I saw early on in my X-Files watching that really got me interested. Anasazi. It was the season 2 finale, premiered on May 19th, 1995. Chris Carter and David Duchovny really worked together to sketch out this whole storyline. It also stars Floyd Red Crow Westerman, and he was this iconic actor who, if you needed an elderly Native American nice guy character in a movie or TV show, it was going to be Floyd.
Yeah.
And speaking of the voiceovers you were talking about, he does all the voiceovers for these 3 episodes: Anasazi, Blessing Way, and Paperclip. Anasazi sets up this trilogy. And it was also one of the first page-turner cliffhanger endings that I remember watching on TV, where I was like, I really need to know what happens, and now I've got to wait. There was another one that summer, too, also on that same channel, Who Shot Mr. Burns, over on The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
Next Sunday, Mr. Burns is shot. And everyone's a suspect. See if you can solve the mystery people will be talking about all summer long.
This isn't Mr. Burns at all. It's a mask. Wait, it is Burns.
Another cliffhanger ending from that summer that I had to know who shot Mr. Burns.
Do you remember who it was?
Spoiler alert, it was Maggie.
Yeah.
I think enough time's passed now.
Right.
Did the government hide proof of an alien encounter 15 years ago? Scully and Mulder uncovered the terrifying truth.
I'm gonna expose you and your project.
Don't miss the surprise ending that will determine an agent's fate.
Oh my God, Scully. What have they done?
The X-Files.
The show opens in Navajo country, where a young man has found what looks like a mummified alien corpse in the desert.
Which was one of the more terrifying things you could see on TV at the time.
They did not skimp out on the sculpt for these things, and young me definitely did not like them. So you got that, and then you got the cold open, and then you find out there's this hacker who's got his hands on some really top secret files with the alleged truth about aliens, gets connected with Mulder, and then gets himself killed. And then the consortium of evil folks featuring the cigarette smoking man is now trying to find this tape, which was kind of looked like a cassette tape, just like a cassette tape that I guess had all this data on there. I don't remember that being a file format in 1995, but maybe it was in some circles. While this is happening, Mulder is also getting poisoned, unbeknownst to him, or drugged. Scully finds out in one of the later episodes, and it's causing him to do some crazy things. Punch Skinner in the face and then flee. And then he watched his father get murdered by, unbeknownst to him at the time, one of the recurring villains in the show.
Yeah, punching Skinner is never a good thing in the show. It's the unwritten rule: never punch Skinner.
Yeah, or your boss in general, whoever that might be.
Yeah.
Punching them is not
Right.
recommended.
Yeah.
All the while, Mulder thinks he's been had because this cassette tape full of this data is actually encrypted and has been coded in Navajo, and Scully thinks she may know how to crack it. So they end up going out into the desert to the reservation and begin to learn the truth about what's happening. And yes, indeed, there's something going out there. The family, The man they're there to see is also the same family who found those darn alien remains in the desert. So, of course, they tell Mulder about it, and he has to go out and see for himself.
Like Mulder does.
Like he does. And so we get this terrifying scene where he climbs into this train car, and
it's buried in the desert.
Buried in the desert. And when he gets in there, he sees the terrifying sight of the pile of bodies of what appear to be aliens, those same mummified creatures we saw in the cold open.
Yep. Even more terrifying because there's a lot more of them.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
And then he calls Scully. Did you catch that? He's in the desert in a buried train car, probably with a lot of heavy metal, made out of a lot of heavy metals, and he's able to complete a call.
Couldn't do that today.
No, those analog phones were really something.
Yeah.
But he's quick to find his comeuppance because the cigarette-smoking man has tracked him down, and then they can't find him, so they decide to blow up the train car with Mulder still in it. So the cliffhanger was, is he dead? Who knew?
Right. Because that's what you do if you're like, I don't know. Okay, let's blow it up, guys. Sounds good.
Let's just blow it up. If he's in there, he's dead.
Yeah. When in doubt, just blow it up.
The mystery was, what's going to happen? Surely they're not going to kill him off. And you had to wait 3 months to find out. Maybe it was 4. Who's counting? They were back on September with The Blessing Way, where we find out Mulder didn't die.
He's not really alive.
Something like that. Yeah, there's a long ceremony where he had to figure out, is he going to cross over? Is he going to come back? We'd see Scully. I think we'd seen Scully have that same decision she had to make where she was in the boat after her abduction earlier in the season,
right,
or the previous season at this point. So it's kind of a recurring motif that comes back and forth through the X-Files.
Has Agent Mulder been silenced for good?
We have control.
The only thing more terrifying than the truth
Where are the files?
is what the government will do to hide it.
They'll kill you one of 2 ways.
Experience the most startling television event of the year.
Don't think I won't do it.
The X-Files, season premiere Friday at 9, 8 Central.
They're able to revive Mulder, but there's also something else going on. Scully is being confronted by other members of the consortium, telling her that her life is in danger and that somebody she trusts may try to kill her. And at the same time, we're starting to learn that Skinner, I think we've always knew that he's not very trustworthy at this point, but there's still some of that. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Whose side is this guy on? Scully's convinced that he's going to try to take her life. So it ends on another cliffhanger where there's this face-off between Scully and Skinner in her apartment, and we're wondering, is he going to try to kill her now?
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to Paperclip, and lo and behold, Mulder makes the save, announcing his return to the world of the living, and ends this standoff with Skinner and Scully.
Friday.
What the hell is going on here?
FBI agents Mulder and Scully uncover the military's most shocking secret.
I need to know the truth.
There are some things you don't have to know.
Now they're being hunted down by their own government. Don't miss a brand new X-Files, Friday after Strange Luck.
Kind of pushes into the next chapter of the alien mythology story, where they start really tracking down abductions and figuring out what's going on. So kind of a critical juncture in that mythology series where they're starting to get more toward past the bounty hunter storyline and into the leading toward the black oil in the movie, the stuff that was in the movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the black oil arc.
Same. Those few seasons were a lot of fun for the mythology, and then it took a wild turn with the super soldiers at the end, but
yeah, it is what it is.
Still a fun show.
It's still a fun show. Yeah, you can't deny that.
Friday.
Look at the body. The eyes and heart have been cut out.
The X-Files is taking you to some scary places in the past, but nothing could prepare you for where they're going next.
Hail the Lords of Darkness.
May the black powers of our forefathers make us strong.
The X-Files. Friday at 9, 8 Central.
Love it.
Yes, another great setup with that kind of grisly voice actor. This was another favorite of yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, indeed it was. This one is called The Hand That Wounds, but it's in German. It's in what? Now I'm second guessing everything. What are you doing to me? What did I do?
No, you're right. It was
The Hand That Wounds, but it's in German, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because reasons.
Die Hand die Verlicht or something to that effect, was it?
Sure.
We'll call it that.
It means The Hand That Wounds, and it's season 2, episode 14, and it aired January 27th, 1995. This one is one of my favorites. Okay. So I went to a private school, and this was like the complete opposite of that in a sense. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's a school, but then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like in the prologue, it's like, okay, they're talking about faculty stuff. And then it's like, yeah, we need to say a prayer. It's like, yeah, we haven't done that in some time, but okay. And then they light this candle in the table, and then it's like they're praying to the darkness and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, let's see where this is going. And yeah, they went there. And it got dark. It got really dark.
It did get dark. It was a fun kind of like parody of that kind of extreme religion that you saw in that era.
Right. But not a comedic parody in a sense. Like they were taking it very seriously. And one of the most pivotal things to me was the monologue from Sharon, portrayed by Heather McComb.
You know who my stepdad is, right?
It's one of the darkest monologues I think I've ever heard in television.
He told me that if I ever told anybody that he would hurt me.
Because it's just her talking to Scully and Mulder outside, and I won't get into the detail of it because it's that dark, but wow, like they went there. And
yes,
kudos to Heather for being able to portray that.
The casting in that episode was fantastic too. The villain who looked very serpentine in those close-ups, and it was probably makeup. Teacher. Yes. So that was a lot of fun. I liked the look of it. This was also the first time Kim Manners got to direct an episode. He was one of my favorite X-Files directors, and it was always funny because in the behind-the-scenes stuff, he's always talking about, anytime there was some kind of animal, they'd bring me on. And this episode was no different with the raining frogs and then the snake that chases the guy into the basement. And apparently that was a tough scene to shoot because the actor was just terrified. Yeah. Which I would be too.
No kidding. I mean, I don't have a huge phobia of snakes, but I don't need to be that close to one that size.
Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere near any of them. So this was also the last episode written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong. They've been around through most of the end of the first and second seasons, and they would eventually go on in the 90s to make Final Destination, that whole series of movies. So they were just on the cusp of their cinematic heights, I suppose, when they were leaving the X-Files.
Again, Final Destination is a big part of our pop culture zeitgeist.
That's true.
So kudos to them. And this episode also has a fun scene. I say fun. They Mulder and Scully go to Sharon's parents' house to talk about everything Sharon just told them. And they kind of split them up, and Scully's talking to the mom, and asking all these questions very tactfully, and that's going on. And then it cuts to the kitchen where Mulder's talking to the husband, and he just walks over and is like, "So did you do it?" Just point blank, like, yeah.
Yeah, no grace there. He's like, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
There's something else afoot in this town.
Yeah. Indeed there was.
Mulder's in trouble, big trouble.
In the Bermuda Triangle,
You've been caught in some kind of time warp.
anything can happen.
I want you to do me a favor. Either you do it or I kill you.
I think there's been a mistake.
It's the biggest episode yet, with the moment you've been waiting for.
So in case we never meet again,
The X-Files, an all-new episode Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.
Time for a logo change.
Got rid of that bright green stuff.
I really like the bright green stuff.
There was something really cool about it, but I did like how it ended up with the kind of blue purple stamp look down the line. And this episode that we're talking about now is Triangle, season 6, episode 3, premiered November 22nd, 1998. And I remember seeing this one when it premiered and really enjoying it, but I enjoy it for completely different reasons now. Season 6 marked the start of moving the production from Canada to Hollywood, and so we began seeing a lot more high production value cinematic sequences and lots more up and coming stars from that era after they moved to Hollywood. But this one is presented as, and they don't stick to it 100%. It's presented as one takes. So there's a one take in the world that Mulder finds himself in, and there's a one take in the world that Scully is in, and they're presented as almost just one shot of all the action happening in both worlds.
Yeah, in a parallel timeline, like they're happening at the same time, but like kind of not.
Yeah, so like a literally parallel action, the storytelling mechanism that they teach you about in creative writing 101. But the story is he gets sucked into the Bermuda Triangle after he's investigating this ship that has appeared after it was missing since 1939. And then lo and behold, he ends up on the ship, but it's in 1939 in this parallel world that the Bermuda Triangle kind of takes everyone to. And the ship has been taken over by Nazis. Wouldn't you know it, the cigarette smoking man, William B. Davis, gets to play the role of the Nazi commander in this episode.
And they all speak actually in German, if I remember correctly.
William B. Davis and Mitch Pileggi, who plays Skinner, had to speak their lines in German. I think Skinner does get a little coup de grace at the end of the episode where he speaks English and helps them make their escape. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yep. So Mulder ends up on this ship with these Nazis on board, two of whom are Skinner and the cigarette smoking man. He also runs into Scully, but she's not quite Scully. She's definitely the icon of her era with this kind of highfalutin, sassy character who's like, you're not going to put your mitts on me, fella.
Permed hair, the retro Scully.
While this is going on, the lone gunmen show up, and it's not often you see them on episodes that aren't conspiracy episodes, and kind of let Scully know that Mulder's in some dangerous water, so to speak. And she begins the quest to save him and gets into some trouble on her own. And you're just kind of seeing her go through the FBI office and this simulated one shot, and you get to see her going down the elevator and who she's interacting with in the elevator,
right.
And then running down the hall. And it's a different energy and vibe that you normally get in the traditional action, reverse action kind of cutting that they're known for.
Right. It was fun to see the sets in like a different way, because you were seeing like follow around Scully and seeing parts of the set that you never saw before.
The way they did the cuts was very interesting too. They used a lot of the lighting, so especially in the ship, like you can see a cut or two, or if you know what you're looking for, you can really see a cut or two when the light is swinging above Mulder where he's getting interrogated, and when the light swings out and it gets dark, then they cut to their next shot. And when they're going, following Scully down the hallway, she'll turn the corner, in that moment where there's no light and shadow on the wall, they'll pick up their next shot. So I found it really interesting how they did it. So they were initially going to shoot it in 11-minute one takes, where the camera just is on a steady cam and it follows the performers around the whole scene for each little segment between commercial breaks that you were going to get in the show. However, the camera that they were using and could only get for the shoot only held 4 minutes of film.
Whoops.
So they had to get kind of creative. Yeah. And, they're probably losing half of that just on the starts and stops and waiting on sound to speed and all of the little things you got to wait on as you're getting rolling. But it leads to the final interaction between Mulder and Scully, and it's definitely presented like something out of a 1939 film. They're shot in shadow, backlit silhouette, and you get the big kiss between Mulder and Scully, and he sets it up as and he sets it up as "in case I never see you again."
But this is in sort of an alternate timeline, so they're still not romantically involved in the proper canon of the series. So
correct, yeah.
Go Chris.
And then she slaps him right in the face, and he leaps overboard and gets found by the real Scully. The juxtaposition of the hallways when Scully is on the boat looking for Mulder.
Yeah,
and
the
Mulder
split
and
screens.
Scully. Yeah, and Mulder and Scully were on, 1939. Mulder and Scully are trying to make their escape, and you see them crossing paths, and the screens change sides of the screens. It was really well executed and thought out to make that a lot of fun for the simulated one take.
Indeed, it was. And to talk about the big band music and the 30s inspired score for stuff. Kudos to Mark Snow.
Yeah, Mark Snow's scores were always one of the highlights of the X-Files. Everything from the main theme of the show all the way through the show, you knew it was going to capture the moment and be creepy.
Indeed.
Or whatever it needed to be. Big band in this case.
Yeah. But that was a fun thing to do.
Do you believe in creatures of the night?
Well, it's obviously not a vampire.
Well, why not?
Because they don't exist.
You have the right to remain silent. I know my methods may seem a little odd to you.
Huh?
The X-Files.
Huh?
Oh. An all-new episode Sunday on Fox.
One of my favorites. It's one of the more comedic, and it's kind of telling the same story from two different points of view. Wildly different points of view, and I'm here for it. It's Bad Blood, season 5, episode 12.
It sounds like it could be all about modern politics.
Right? It's actually about vampires. Or is it? It starts off...
That's the big question, yeah.
Yeah. It starts off strong. Mulder's chasing somebody through the woods. It's actually Patrick Renna from The Sandlot. He's screaming, help me. You're not really sure what's going on. Somebody's chasing him, and, this shadowy figure finally catches him and drives a stake through his heart, and it's Mulder. And Scully comes up. She's like, what's going on? And, he's like, I killed the vampire. And Scully, being the skeptic that she is, she's like, okay, well, let's see what this is about. And, he's like, he has fangs, see? And she's like, okay. And she taps them, and they fall out, and they're plastic, and hands them over to Mulder. And he just goes, oh, and then it goes into the theme. Perfect. Because you didn't expect the X-Files to do that. Like, it was so dark and so serious, and then it's like, okay, what's this going to be about? So after the main titles, we're in the FBI office, and it's... Mulder's like, okay, I just murdered this kid. Like, what's going to be my future? So they're trying to get their story straight. And so Scully recounts her version of the story of them going down there to check out the case and, see what's causing the death of these cows. And Mulder is very kind of unhinged throughout the whole episode, being extra Muldery, and it's done campy without feeling stupid.
Very well written, very well acted, very well just executed in all. That he said, she said, somewhere in the middle lies the truth, but where is it? And darn, it's going to be fun to find out.
Right. And Luke Wilson plays the sheriff in the town who, in Mulder's version of the stories, he has as Mulder puts it, a slight overbite. Which it's a little more than that in the show. He obviously has some fake dentures in, but and it's quite entertaining.
Yes, the colorful descriptions and just like the liberties, like the costuming folks came up with, just to contrast the two. That's the term I was looking for there. Was great, and it's also just one of those silly things when you're talking about the kid from The Sandlot. How seriously can you take him as the villain? So you kind of know when Mulder's chasing, hey, is that guy through the woods? You're in for a romp.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun. Just it's told almost exactly the same, just from the two different points of view. So you really get that juxtaposition of through Scully's eyes, Mulder's all unhinged, and it's like, yeah, we're doing this, I'm going to do this, but we're going to figure all this out. And then from Mulder's point of view, Mulder is very reserved, and it's like, we need to go check these out if that's all right, and do all this, and Scully's being very kind of morose about the whole thing and irritated by every little thing. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, kind of seeing like how they view one another in their stories. Was a lot of fun. Also, I read that Vince Gilligan, the writer, initially wanted this show to be kind of unsolved mysteries themed when he first started out trying to write this episode, and it wanted to get Robert Stack involved somehow. Couldn't get the idea to work, so they ended up going the path they went. They were inspired by an episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show where you kind of saw that he said, she said dynamic to the argument.
Nice. It would have been cool to have Robert Stack in the X-Files. It's like a match made in heaven.
It would have been, missed opportunity if there ever was one.
Yeah.
That idea was later revisited, and they made it X-Cops instead. You remember that episode?
I do. All handheld, following them around.
That was another fun one that was different, but well executed and lived in that universe very well.
Yeah, and the acting in the X-Cops episode was fantastic.
They did a really good job making me want to watch Cops again, and then realizing, I don't.
No, this is better.
I'll take X-Cops any day. Maybe that should be a show now.
'Twas the night before Christmas in a house full of ghosts. Mulder, Scully, and their special guest hosts, Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin, would show them the way. But the doors are all locked, and they're here to stay. The X-Files, an all-new Christmas episode, Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.
So my last pick of the night was...
Who's ready for the holidays?
Yeah, I know. I'm always ready for the holidays. That's the bad part, right? How the Ghosts Stole Christmas.
This is
Season
a good one.
6. It was a great one. Season 6, Episode 6, December 13th, 1998. Again, I like this probably more now than I did the first time I saw it, just because of the storytelling aspect about it. As an independent filmmaker myself, it's always a struggle to find locations, to find all the talent that you need, to make all the pieces fit to do something that's, grand and on the scale. And then this is an episode with just 4 characters, really in one location.
House. A haunted house. Car. A haunted house at that, which
a haunted house
I love.
It was a great house that they filmed in too. Everything looked like you would expect in a gothic haunted house.
Very dynamic,
dusty, bloody, as we would find out.
It's true.
So Mulder and Scully find themselves outside of that house in Maryland on an ill-fated Christmas Eve to investigate whether or not it's haunted. Mulder has heard tales that during the Christmas of 1917, the couple that lived in that house killed one another in a suicide pact. In this kind of ill-fated Romeo and Juliet, we want to be together for eternity kind of story. But being together for eternity meant they had to keep luring people into this haunted house to kill them and I guess, keep their psychoactive energy alive. I'm not really quite sure of the mechanics of that part of it, but it works because Mulder and Scully get inside, and these ghosts starts tricking them into believing their partner is homicidal. So they both kind of shoot each other or shoot themselves. I don't think it's quite clear, but they are being influenced by the ghosts presenting themselves as Mulder to Scully and Scully to Mulder, kind of leading to this crazy, like almost hallucinogenic sequence that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all torn apart in the end when Mulder and Scully both end up in this pile of blood and then realize, oh, we're just being tricked. And then they're able to leave the house while the ghosts kind of mope inside. And then we go back to Mulder's apartment where, even though they sworn against it, they traded some Christmas gifts. Happy holidays after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was also another one of those Mulder lines in there. He introduced a fart joke when they're sitting in the car, and that's where I first learned the expression, the left cheek sneak. So thank you, Fox Mulder.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What did you like about this episode?
Some haunted house and ghosts. Like that's really all I enjoy. You know, that's all I need to get enjoyment out of my television watching experiences. And no, but I love shows and movies that like take place in a single location.
Yeah.
It really forces you to be extra creative to like, how can we make this more interesting than just sitting static in one room for 40 minutes.
Yeah, they did a great job like moving around, and it was just one of those shows again that was so well executed for what it was that you couldn't help but like it.
Yeah, and the dynamic angles.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere to make the house look even bigger and creepier, and
that huge library.
Yeah, I want one of those.
Yeah, same. It'd be half filled with toys and half filled with books and half filled with movies. I guess that would be thirds.
Yeah, and maybe a ghost here and there.
Yeah. Got to be entertained every so often.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, those were some of what we chose as our top 3 favorite episodes. But again, that was so tough.
It was.
I think some other ones that I would throw up there are. Hope I don't butcher the titles here. This is just kind of off the cuff.
Uh-oh.
It was the episode after Triangle, Dreamland, where Mulder and the other agent, I can't remember his name, the actor who played him, they switch bodies and they're having this Freaky Friday kind of storyline going on where the other agent is in Mulder's body and Mulder's in the other agent's body. And so the one guy's kind of like a stale married guy and is very interested in Michael McKean, and is very interested in traveling with Scully, whereas then Mulder kind of goes home and sees what this guy's married life is like. And then they have the the Abbott and Costello, or it wasn't Abbott and Costello, the routine they do in front of the mirror when they're dancing together.
Yeah.
Marx Brothers gag. That was it.
Yeah.
How about you? Any other ones you'd throw on this list?
Oh, wow. I would probably say .com.
Friday.
Captain!
Aboard an abandoned warship,
You almost look mummified.
Scully and Mulder are exposed to an unknown disease.
Mulder, what happened to you?
Now they're aging 10 years every 10 minutes, and time is running out.
He isn't gonna make it.
A brand new X-Files Friday at 9, 8 Central.
Which is where they're on this derelict ship and they're aging unnaturally fast. And it was seeing a different side of their characters, like, is this the end? And Scully's keeping a journal throughout it, just kind of dealing with her own thoughts of this is how we're going to go.
Right. It's kind of sad and scary in its own right, just in that we're stuck here. What else can we do?
Mm-hmm. And like the Dwayne Barry episode, that's a good one.
They say it never happens.
Former FBI who also claims to be an alien abductee.
They say it isn't real.
The government knows about it.
But Friday, Agents Mulder and Scully will discover the terrifying truth.
What is this thing, Mulder?
Don't miss the most thrilling X-Files ever. Friday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.
One of the creepiest shots for me at the time that I'd ever seen. He's in his bed sleeping, and then he starts this light backlights all around him, and we see all these aliens surrounding him.
Yes.
And it was just so terrifying.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that scene with all those kids in suits, but they're presented so terrifying, at least on a 4:3 grainy television screen that you were watching back then.
Right.
When you watch the remastered widescreen cut now, you're like,
yeah,
still terrifying, but in a different way.
Indeed.
So, Neil, I had a lot of fun recapping some of our favorite episodes and just the off the cuff little extra ones we were throwing in there. Of the top three that I picked tonight, do you have one that you would like to just stop what we're doing and watch right now?
Yeah, Holly Ghost Stole Christmas, because I'm a sucker for haunted houses.
And out of the ones you presented, I think I would have to go back and watch Bad Blood again. It's been a while since I've watched that one, and just remembering that campy, he said, she said, over the top kind of humor presentation, that would be the one.
Nice.
Well, we got some watching to do, I suppose. Neil, thanks for hanging out with me and
anytime
and reliving the X-Files. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review, all the things. Love to hear from you. Appreciate the support. And Neil, tell folks where they can learn more about you and what you do.
You can learn more about me at nlgcomposer.com. I make movies for films. I make music on my own. I just love sounds in general. So, yeah, let's be creative.
There you go. Well, thanks again, Neil. Thanks again for tuning in. And we'll see you next time we hit the rewind button.